In this video, we're going to take a look at the break statement in loops in Java. Now, the break statement isn't frequently used because it can lead to some interesting side effects and can sometimes be a sign of bad design. But nonetheless, sometimes it's necessary, and also keep in mind that probably most of your career is going to be looking at someone else's code. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play this project we've been using so far, and by the way, this video is part of a playlist that I'll put in the comments, and also this source code I'll put on GitHub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter 10 gallons of gas, 10 miles per gallon, and 10,000 miles on the odometer. No more cars. Now I'm gonna say several trips. We're gonna do one trip that is maybe 60 miles. Then we'll say, yeah, I want to enter another. Another trip is 50. I want to enter another. And then the last one will be 100 miles. And I choose OK. No more to enter. You see, we get to an interesting scenario here, which is we take the first trip and we're left with 4 gallons of gas. After the second trip, we're left with minus 1 gallons of gas. And then after the third trip, we're left with minus 11. Now, we really shouldn't go on the second trip, much less the third trip, because we don't have enough gas for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down to the nested loop, in other words, loop within a loop, where we're taking these trips. And what we have here is the outer loop is iterating over all of our vehicles. And then for each of those vehicles, the inner loop is iterating once for each trip that we want to take. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add an if statement here that says if this vehicle, that's our iteration variable up here, dot get gallons of gas is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to say system out print line out of gas, and we're going to say break. Break means don't continue with the rest of the loop. Break out of the loop where we are right now, don't continue with the rest. Now, this case, it only affects the inner loop. The outer loop is still going to iterate, but once we've gotten to a negative gas situation, the inner loop will no longer execute for that specific car. Once we bounce out to the outer loop, then we'll start the inner loop all over again because we have a new car, we have a new gallons of gas. So let's watch it work. I'll tell you what I'll do this time. I'm going to snap a breakpoint. I'll tell you, we'll run it first and then I'll walk through it in the debugger. So let's go ahead and just run it as it is. Okay, gallons of gas, once again, we'll do 10, 10, and 10,000 on the odometer. I'll go ahead and enter another car here, gallons of gas 20, miles per gallon 20, and 20 on the odometer. No more cars. We'll do our trips at 50, another trip at 60, and a final trip at 100. No more trips, and now let's watch what happened. So if I take a look at the output, we see our first car, which had only 10 gallons of gas and 10 miles to the gallon, it made its first trip, it made its second trip, and then we got the message out of gas. And it did not make a third trip because you see we have the before, but we do not have an after. The out of gas came in and said, okay, you're out of gas, can't make any more trips. Then what did we do? We started anew with our second car, the 20s car, the 2020, 20,000 car. So we see this one was able to take all 3 trips successfully because we see 3 blocks of before and after that have run in sequence. So in this case, the break has broken us out of the inner loop for one specific car. Let's take a look in the debugger. I'm going to, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll snap a breakpoint right at the start of this for loop. I'm going to take off an old breakpoint that I have. Okay, so we'll remove that. And then quickly we'll just run this through the debugger. We'll enter the same parameters as we did last time. We'll have a 10s car. Yes, I want to enter another, and then we'll have a 20s car. Okay, no more cars. Okay, 50. Yes, another trip. 60. Yes, another trip. 100. No more trips. Okay, let's watch this now. The outer loop, all vehicles. Okay, all vehicles should have 2 vehicles in it. The 0 vehicle is the one where everything is 10, and the 1 vehicle is the vehicle where everything is 20. So we'll start with the 10s vehicle. Now we're going to iterate over our trips, and we're going to tell the car to go. That's our first trip. Here's our second trip. Okay. And let's take a look at the status of the vehicle right now. We see it has, after the second trip, it has gallons of gas of -1. Now we probably should be smarter about this, and we should do the out of gas before we actually get negative. But nonetheless, it's just a demonstration. This is good enough for us. Now, here's the important part. Watch as I F8. Watch where we go. Watch where the green line goes. It goes back to the start of the inner loop. But now it's going to say, okay, what's this vehicle.get gallons of gas going to return? It's going to return -1. -1 is less than or equal to 0. So watch this. It says out of gas and then brake. Now watch carefully what happens when I press F8 now when we're on the brake. It's not going to go to line 85. Instead, it goes back to the outer loop, and now it's going to start working on our 20s car. Okay, and that one's going to have plenty of gas to get through, so that one's not going to break. That one will execute as expected, and then the program finally terminates. So in this video, we saw that we can use a break statement to break out of a loop, and a similar statement that I didn't use here. There's a similar statement that's called continue. Continue means stop this iteration, move on to the next iteration. So break completely terminates the inner loop and goes on to whatever's after that, which in this case happened to be the outer loop. A continue statement is very similar, but what it means is that if I put continue there, it would say, don't do this part for the current iteration of the loop. Go ahead and start the loop over at the next iteration. So two similar terms, again, not frequently used, but in case you see it, that's why you use it. Thank you.